Welcome. I will now call the Affordability Committee meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. 3 public meetings are being held this evening. If you are joining the meeting virtually and have not yet registered and wish to speak, please email cityclerks@barrie.ca and staff will email you the information to participate virtually. The first public meeting is to review the zoning bylaw amendment applications submitted by Innovative Planning Solutions to permit a residential development. The subject lands are municipally known as 196 and 202 Dunlop Street West, Barrie. The second public meeting is to review the zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Innovative Planning Solutions to permit a residential development. The subject lands are municipally known as 204 Dunlop Street West, Barrie. The third public meeting is to review the zoning bylaw amendment application and draft plan of subdivision submitted by the Jones Consulting Group. The subject lands are municipally known as 830, 864, and 912 Lockhart Road, Barrie. Members of committee will be listening to the presentations and comments received during the public meetings, but will not be making comments or debating the items tonight. Committee members will have an opportunity to provide comments when the staff reports are considered by General Committee at a later date. Interested persons wishing notification of the staff reports can sign the notification form at the back of council chambers or by email at cityclerks@barrie.ca. Michelle Banfield, Executive Director of Development Services, would you please confirm that the notifications were conducted in accordance with the Planning Act for tonight's public meetings?
Yes, Chair Nixon, it was.
Thank you. I will now call upon Nick Scarrett, Innovative Planning Solutions, to provide the presentation concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application for 196 and 202 Dunlop Street West, Barrie.
Good evening, Chair, members, staff, and the public. My name is Nick Scarrett with Innovative Planning Solutions, here to speak on behalf of the owners for the lands municipally known as 196 and 202 Dunlop Street West. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the proposed development and request zoning bylaw and receive feedback by the public in attendance tonight. The intent of this application is to facilitate a rezoning of the lands from RM2 SP 189 to a mixed-use zone MU2 with site-specific exemptions, catered to the development to facilitate the development of a 4-story mixed-use building containing 33 residential rental dwelling units and 2 ground floor commercial units. Next slide, please. Or do I? Yep, thank you. This slide shows the timeline of how we arrived here today. As you can see, we've done extensive work on this project, working with staff and ensuring that we meet the development timelines stipulated by the province and the City of Barrie. We received neighborhood feedbacks, which we integrated into the development, and reports and comments from staff as part of the zoning bylaw amendment process, and to obtain feedback from the public meeting tonight. As the public meeting will contain no decisions, our next steps are to receive comments and make any necessary adjustments to the development and proceed to a decision of council. Following the decision of council at a later date, additional approvals are required through site plan control and ultimately building permits. Next slide, please. This slide provides an aerial image of the subject lands. The subject lands are comprised of 2 lots, which will be merged into one, with a lot area of just over 2,400 meters squared, with a lot frontage of 43 meters along Dunlop Street West. The existing site has 2 single detached dwellings at the front and commercial uses and structures at the back. Next slide, please. This image shows uses within the area. As you can see in the red square, it's centrally located, sandwiched between Highway 400 to the west and the downtown core to the east, surrounded by residential uses and walkability via Dunlop with municipal transit to commercial, institutional, residential uses and downtown core amenities. Next slide, please. As a quick overview of the development concept for the 4-story mixed-use building, Um, oh, sorry, I missed the slide. Sorry. A high-level overview of development or policies for this area of Dunlop Street, which is in an intensification corridor stipulated by the official plan. It is in a strategic growth plan area and strategic employment and economic district designation, which promotes mixed-use developments and intensification. Next slide, please. As a quick overview of the development of the four-story mixed-use building, there will be 33 residential rental units with 2 ground floor units facing Dunlop Street that will be commercial. The front yard setback will be accompanied by landscaping, and the development will be comprised of 37 parking spaces, half of which will be in a ground floor covered entrance, and the remaining will be at the rear, accessed by a singular driveway. Next slide, please. This concept shows a very general elevation drawings of the proposal. The front elevation drawing showing residentials on floors 2 to 4, and the ground floor showing commercial units facing Dunlop Street. The rear elevation shows balconies and the rooftop amenity space that'll be enjoyed by residents. Next slide, please. As noted throughout the presentation, we're looking and seeking comments for the zoning bylaw amendment from RM2 SP 189 to mixed use MU2 with site-specific provisions. Next slide, please. The proposed development aligns with and promotes established policy visions for the areas as stipulated by the PPS and the city's official plan. The zoning bylaw from amendment from RM2 SP 189 to mixed use 2 with site exemptions adheres to existing policies and growth projections along Dunlop Street West and the city's draft zoning bylaw, which will be in effect in approximately a year or less. Next slide, please. This slide shows our requested site-specific exemptions. The numbers indicate the amount of exemptions. The first one, relative to the front yard, we've pushed the building farther back to accommodate additional landscaping in the front yard, which is not currently permitted by the zoning bylaw. A number of reasons for that is you can see a utility box on the right side that has caused the building to be pushed back to meet utility providers' regulations. And in turn, that has minimized the rear landscaping area identified by number 2 at the rear, which has reduced it from 3 meters to 2 meters. To provide for vehicle maneuverability, there's a slight bump out on the left side, which is another deficiency for landscape buffer areas. The fourth site-specific is with waste collection structures. Currently, Moloch systems, you've probably seen these around the city in numerous developments, are not permitted under the current zoning bylaw. Through this development review, we've anticipated that these types of systems create development benefits because the majority of those systems are underground, which eliminates common nuisances that you see with enclosed garbage systems above ground. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the proposed represents the opportunity to rezone these lands in line with official plan policies of Dunlop Street and provide a much-needed residential housing and commercial space in a convenient urban design and walkability, plus public transit and a gentle form of intensification. We have reviewed all the comments submitted prior to this public meeting and will work with commenting departments and agencies to address those comments. Next slide, please. This concludes my presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions of committee, public, or staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have anyone pre-registered, but if there are any members of the public who wish to provide comments, please approach the podium and begin by stating your first and last name and address for the record. Do we have anyone here wishing to address or have comments for the committee? I do not see. Okay. We have one pre-registered to speak virtually. That would be Ann Stoffergen, I believe. Hopefully I got that right. I will now invite you to provide comments.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my concern. We live towards the rear of this proposed property, and we enjoy some large mature trees, part of a tree canopy back there. And I'm really concerned that what care is going to be taken to keep these, I think it's a black walnut tree, it's fully mature. To keep these trees to shield us from this huge building, because the balconies, we're going to be overlooked by all of this.
And son, we were here at the previous meeting where we saw the plans, and the concerns that we brought up then were primarily the balconies at the back. And it seemed not only has that not changed since the proposal, now there's a suggestion to have additional balcony area on the roof. And on top of that, they're going to increase the setback from Dunlop Street in order to move it even closer to the back and decrease the setback towards the back. So it's actually closer to our house than what was proposed at the meeting in September, which is somewhat concerning. So we're
Okay, yeah. So if you could respond to our concerns about keeping the trees, please?
But the privacy issues with the 4 balconies and the roof balconies and the decreased setback in the latest proposal. And sorry, do we have that right, that they're requesting the bylaw be changed to decrease the existing setback laws for their development when it's already kind of an issue? Correctly? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It was my understanding that you were going to speak on the second presentation as well at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you can go right ahead now if you like.
Well, this is, I
we're
think
just,
this is
we
one
need
design.
to know about what's going to be done to protect those trees that are part of our tree canopy and protect us from the noise and of Dunlop Street and the strong winds. Yeah. And the lack of privacy from the overlooking of these places from the rear. I'd just like to hear is anyone going to answer our concerns tonight or no?
And if anything, they should be moving closer to Dunlop Street rather than moving it farther away from Dunlop Street. I mean, it's really the opposite of what we asked for in the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. And to answer your question, yeah, no, there will be no answers this evening, but your comments have been recorded, and the staff will speak with the applicant and will get back to you.
Thank you.
I will now call upon, I may have jumped ahead there, I'll call upon Tyler Butler, Planning for the Development Services Department, to provide an update on the status of the application. Sorry for bypassing you there.
No worries. Good evening, Chair Nixon and members of the Affordability Committee. In addition to the presentation by the applicant's team, thank you, Nick, from IPS, a memorandum was provided to the committee to describe the application, and I'm going to provide an update regarding the status of the applications and the primary planning and land use matters being considered by staff at this time. So the zoning bylaw amendment application proposed to amend the current zoning from residential multiple dwelling second density with special provisions to mixed use corridor with special provisions in accordance with the city zoning bylaw for the development of a 4-story mixed use apartment consisting of 33 residential units. The neighborhood meeting was held. There was 13 attendees, including Ward 2 Councillor Craig Nixon. the applicant, their consultants, and planning staff. The comments and concerns heard at that neighborhood meeting were questions related to the proximity of the building in relation to the existing single detached dwellings on Henry Street, comments regarding the scale of the proposal being much smaller than other proposed developments in the area, the preservation of existing trees on site and the associated boundary trees, and comments regarding the amount of parking provided for residents and potential commercial tenants, and then the timing on when demolitions would take place and would fencing be installed prior to any demolition. So the matters currently under review by planning staff and the city's technical departments include compliance with the provincial policy, the city's official plan and zoning bylaw, the appropriateness of the site-specific amendments to the zoning bylaw to accommodate the proposed development, ensuring that appropriate transition and buffers are provided to neighboring properties, boundary tree preservation in accordance with city standards, site servicing grading, stormwater management as it relates to conformity with the city standards, and an understanding of the functionality of the site as proposed, and then the compatibility of the proposed development with existing and anticipated development in the area. And just to note, a tree preservation plan would be required, which would identify any of those boundary trees, and any of those boundary trees would have to be preserved or consent provided from the owner to the proponent to harm those trees. So on an expected return to council, all comments received during the technical review process, as well as comments provided tonight at the public meeting, will be included and addressed in the planning staff report, targeted to be brought forward sometime in Q4 this year for general committee's consideration. Of course, that timing will depend on the review of the submitted materials, and those comments may result in changes to the proposed plans. Should council approve the zoning bylaw, a subsequent site plan control application would be required where detailed design would take place. And the submission materials and key dates associated with the application are available for viewing on the development project's webpage under Ward 2, or alternatively, you can contact me directly for those materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. As the Ward 2 councillor, I do have a couple of quick comments and one question. I'll direct it to Mr. Scarrett. My comments are, yes, it's nice to see purpose-built rentals. And it's nice to see parking, over that 1-to-1, which seem to be, some of the biggest concerns. Perhaps I should have done my homework a little better. Maybe you could explain to me, there was mention of, is it Molark Waste Systems? Would you mind just explaining to me and perhaps other people here just what that is and what difference that is between that and current ways? Thank you.
Be happy to, Mr. Chair. A MOLOC system is, majority of that system is underground. So a traditional waste collection area is above ground where the trucks would roll in, take that garbage bin out and empty it. This system is about 3/4 of the way underground, and it is a bag system. So the actual physical garbage containment structure remains, and the truck comes over with a crane, pulls it out in a bag form, which doesn't allow for leaking or rodents or smells to emanate from those structures, and puts it on a truck and takes it away. So similar type of system to gather and collect the waste, but in a more confined, lower profile system from grade. It would actually only be about this high. So you're actually getting more waste collection in a smaller envelope than a traditional fully enclosed structure.
Okay, thank you. And is the pickup done by regular standard garbage truck, or do we need a specialized equipment to pick this up?
Pickup will be by private company, and they have the certain trucks that have these crane systems that obtain the waste collection area.
Okay, thank you. Now, is this just, I may be familiar with it, is this the same system that I see used in Toronto quite a bit on public streets where they have the large containers that are actually buried under the ground? So that's what it is. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Members of committee, do you have any comments or questions of clarification? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Nixon. And I know that this planning is just for the ward councillor, but you brought up a great point. If this is a private collection, why is it a provision in the application, and maybe through staff with the Moloch system. I know that Ms. Mack isn't, I notice she's not here, but if it's private, why is that our site plan approval process? Just out of curiosity. Thank you, Mr. Brother. That was your opportunity to say we're working on a new zoning bylaw, and for people to, you missed the segue there. But thanks for your answer.
Thank you. Any other members of committee? Nope. Okay, if anyone has any further written comments, you can submit them to Tyler Butler in the Development Services Department at tyler.butler@barrie.ca. We will move to the second public meeting. And I will now call upon Nick Scarrett again of Innovative Planning Solutions, Inc., to provide the presentation concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application at 204 Dunlop Street West, Barrie. Floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Nick Scare with Innovative Planning Solutions, here to present rezoning application for the property municipally known as 204 Dunlop Street West. We're looking for rezoning similar to the previous presentation from RM2 SP 189 to mixed use 2 with site specific to facilitate the development of a 5-story mixed use building containing 16 residential rental units and 1 ground floor commercial unit. Next slide, please. Again, this is a timeline of how we got here today. Again, extensive work has been done with the coordination with municipal staff in line with the City of Barrie's development permit processes and provincial regulations. We conducted a neighborhood meeting, which resulted in some alterations to the design and subsequent revisions for the zoning bylaw amendment process, which brings us here today to obtain feedback from the public, council and staff. And again, there'll be no decisions here tonight, just comments to be received, and those will facilitate direction towards council decision and additional approvals through the site plan control process and ultimately a building permit. Next slide, please. This site is a singular lot. Even though the singular lot is limited in area, it still allows for development opportunities with a lot area of 923 square meters and a frontage of 20 meters along Dunlop Street West. Currently on the site today is a single detached dwelling with commercial uses, and the property is relatively flat in nature. Next slide, please. Centrally located between Highway 400 and the downtown core, located on Dunlop Street, surrounded by commercial residential uses, walkability, transit route, municipal transit routes, commercial and downtown core amenities to facilitate the development. Next slide, please. Again, same type of designation along Dunlop Street West, intensification corridor within a strategic growth area and strategic economic and strategic employment and economic district, better known as a C designation in the official plan. And this development aligns better with those policies for intensification corridors. And the zoning, the current zoning of the property, again, RM2 SP 189 on the image on the right. Next slide, please. A quick overview of the proposed development. Again, 5 stories, 16 residential rental dwelling units, and 1 singular ground floor commercial space. The site does meet parking with 18 total surface space, parking spaces accessed by singular access driveway from Dunlop Street. The building is elevated, so that image may look like you're driving right into the building, but rest assured it's open space to access those parking spaces. Again, with rooftop amenity and for the residents to enjoy, and additional landscaping features on the roof to help shade and provide additional greenery. Next slide, please. This general image, architectural elevation image, shows the layout of the building. As you can see in the left image, the balconies are facing west. No balconies will be facing the rear of the property, which was heard at our neighborhood meeting. And then the image on the right, you can see at the bottom, and the access to those parking spaces at the back and on the west side, and access to the commercial space, as well as the lobby for the residential, which also contains garbage enclosure within the building and bicycle parking spaces. Next slide, please. Again, just looking at what we're requesting through this development process for the rezoning is an RM2 SP 189 current zoning on the property, and proposal is to go to mixed use MU2 site specific for the development, which is in line with OP policies. Next slide, please. As stated, the proposed development aligns with the vision and outline for the policies of Dunlop Street West as an intensification corridor, meeting the PPS, the City of Barrie's official plan, and the policy framework to cultivate our design as it stands today. Again, changing from residential to mixed use. Next slide, please. So here's our site specifics that we're requesting. The front yard setback is in line with the abutting development that you just heard. And the reason for the slight increase, it's actually about 0.6, so a foot farther than the bylaw require, or that the bylaw maximizes. And that allows us to provide for some green spaces in the front yard to complement the hardscaped areas. The rear yard and facade, the zoning bylaw has an angular plane, a 45-degree angular plane from the rear property line, which stipulates building setbacks. This structure is slightly within the 45-degree angular plane, and we're proposing a 57-degree angular plane, which helps ensure unified design of the structure and meets floor areas for those residential spaces on the top. Another reason why we're requesting a 57-degree angular plane is if we did meet the 45, then there would be a rear-facing balcony. So just to adhere to the public's comments, we look to remove that balcony and have it facing west. Ground floor building height in the zoning bylaw, it requires ground floor building height of 4.5 meters. We're asking for 3.2 meters, which is enough space to facilitate the commercial and mechanical equipment within that space, which actually lowers our overall building height. So if we went to 4.5 meters, we'd actually be looking at a higher building, and we're looking to kind of confine and compress the design to accommodate this type of development in this type of property. Again, with the commercial space on the ground floor, there's a minimum requirement in the zoning bylaw of 50% of the ground floor must be commercial. Again, we're dealing with a very constrained site, and we're very close with 41%, but it still facilitates the ability to have a commercial use function on the first floor. And we're actually asking for additional height within the zoning bylaw. It can be noted that in the RM2 SP 189 zone, it actually allows for a higher building than the mixed-use zone that we're actually asking for. So if the current zoning is permitting a 20-meter maximum height, well, we change to a mixed-use zone, it actually decreases our height. So in a sense, we're looking to maintain that 20-meter height, which allows for us to meet intensification targets with residential dwellings along Dunlop Street. The front yard paved area is a zoning bylaw requirement, and we're looking to add some green landscaped areas. And as you can see from this image, the landscape buffer areas along the west, the north, and a little bit on the east is restricted. You're probably wondering, how are we going to deal with snow storage? Snow storage will be trucked off-site through a private contractor. And that amenity space, we're making up for it as a rooftop amenity. You can see in a faded image that the rooftop amenity area will contain vegetation, medium and large vegetation, to provide for shading, enjoyment, and it actually will allow that vegetation to survive over comparison to being on the ground. Next slide, please. So again, 5-story mixed-use building with 16 residential units with commercial space that will facilitate a singular use, and a zoning bylaw amendment to mixed use align with the policies of the official plan. Again, we feel that this is a gentle form of intensification for Dunlop Street, and we believe that this will contribute to transit walkability and the rental housing demand in the city. Next slide, please. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now call upon, again, Tyler Butler, planner from the Development Services Department, to provide an update on the status of the application.
Good evening, Chair Harrison, Chair Nixon, and members of the Affordability Committee. In addition to the presentation by the applicant's team, a memorandum was provided to committee to describe the application, and I'm going to give an update regarding the status of that application and the primary planning and land use matters being considered by staff at this time. So the zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to amend the current zoning on the property from residential multiple dwelling second density with special provisions to mixed use corridor with special provisions. The purpose of the amendment is to facilitate 16 purpose-built rentals with associated commercial space located at grade. A neighborhood meeting was held, and the comments heard by that, there was 11 people in attendance, including Ward 2 Councilor Craig Nixon, and the applicant and the consultants and the planning staff. So the questions we heard were related to the orientation of balconies, the proximity to homes located on Henry Street and surrounding the property on Dunlop, comments regarding the preservation of those existing trees on site and associated boundary trees, the timing on demolition, and comments regarding the inclusion of electric vehicle charging stations. The applications are currently under review by planning staff and the city's technical review teams. And of course, we're looking at compliance with provincial policy and the city's official plan and zoning bylaw, the appropriateness of the site-specific amendments to the zoning bylaw, ensuring that appropriate transition and buffers are provided to neighboring properties, boundary tree preservation, site servicing, grading, stormwater management as it relates to conformity with city standards, and an understanding of the functionality of the site as proposed, including but not limited to landscaping, amenities, pedestrian connectivity and safety, and vehicular circulation. The expected return to council. So all comments received during the technical review process, as well as comments provided at the public meeting, will be included and addressed in the planning staff report, targeted to be brought forward to for general committee's consideration in Q4 of this year. Again, that timing will, however, depend on the comments received through our technical review process and the review of those submitted materials. Should council approve the zoning bylaw, a subsequent site plan control application would be required prior to the development occurring on the lands. And it's at that time time where matters related to trees, orientation of the balconies, and the actual height of the building would be reviewed. And then again, all submission materials and key dates associated with the application is available for viewing on the city's development projects webpage under Ward 2, or alternatively, of course, you can contact me directly for those materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. I don't think we have anyone else pre-registered, no? Okay. I do not have any questions or concerns. Anything that I did have was covered in the previous presentation, but members of the committee, do you have any comments or questions of clarification? Anyone? No? Okay. If I can do that, thank you. Did anyone in the audience wish to address this or had any questions while you're here? Seeing none, okay, thank you. Just thought we'd give you that opportunity. Okay, if anyone has any further written comments, you can submit them to Tyler Butler in the Development Services Department at tyler.butler@barrie.ca. We will move to our third public meeting. I will now call upon Ray Duhamel from the Jones Consulting Group to provide the presentation concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application and draft plan of subdivision 830, 864, and 912 Lockhart Road, Barrie. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee and council. My name is Ray Duhamel with the Jones Consulting Group, and I'm presenting this evening on behalf of Bradley Holmes, who's the applicant, and the landowner, Christon Construction and Pratt Development. The lands are located at the south end of Barrie on the boundary of Lockhart Road on the south. For the ward councilor's benefit, I'm going to go this way tonight. So Lockhart Road is immediately south. That's the boundary of Innisfil. The 20th Side Road is to the east. Young Street and the Metro Links line is to the west, and Mapleview Drive to the south, to the north. I'm sorry. So this is approximately falls in the middle of that block area. Adjacent land uses, basically everything to the east and north. All around this area is all existing, either lands that are draft plan approved, they're either registered or constructed, or they're in the conceptual and planning phases. The lands themselves are in the red box, and they form part of three separate parcels, which are in the yellow outlines below. The red area, which is known as Hewitt Central, and at some future date, I'll be back before you for the lands to the immediate south, which are called Hewitt South. And the lands in red are 28 hectares in size, and they have approximately 24 meters of frontage on the future extension of Lally Terrace, which is right here. And they also have frontage on the future extension of Prince William Way, and it's the same development family, same ownership immediately to the north. A few pictures just illustrating the top left-hand corner is what's existing construction that's occurring to the north, and then to the east and west and south are all various development parcels there, interim agricultural uses or open space uses. Typical slide about the provincial policy statement, growth plan, and the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. The application, in my opinion, conforms or is consistent with those documents. The interesting part is that the new provincial policy statement takes effect October the 20th. October the 20th. And at that point, the growth plan and the 2020 provincial policy statement will cease to be in effect. So this application has been reviewed in both contexts. In my opinion, it's consistent with both and conforms to those documents, including the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. Official plan slide. This is your plan that's recently been approved, as you know, by the province. Guides your land use planning horizon up to the year 2051. And this land is designated primarily in yellow, which is called a neighborhood area. And so that's the entire yellow area. There's also a green open space area here, which is park, and then a darker green shade, which is environmental protection, and a linkage area. This doesn't physically exist today, but will be constructed as part of the development of the Hewitt Central and Hewitt South applications. No change to the official plan is proposed by this application. Zoning is a little different as well. This parcel is actually still subject to the 2004 Town of Innisfil zoning bylaw. As a result of the annexation, this bylaw has been repealed by Innisfil, but it still exists until it's finally replaced throughout all of the Hewitts in the Salem area. The Hewitts in the Salem area. So it's according to that old Innisfil bylaw, which is 05404, the lands are zoned agricultural environmental protection. In your new bylaw, which is just being just in its third draft, and public meeting's coming up. These lands are proposed to be zoned neighborhood low 2 and environmental protection. And this slide, as is typical for a large development file like this, there was a lot of technical work that was undertaken as part of this application. All of this information for the benefit of any members of the public that are watching, you can go online to the city's website and be able to see the different information and read that and try to pull any conclusions and make any comments that they have. This slide actually shows the proposed built form. So the subdivision is 338 lots, comprising a variety of townhouses and single detached of various lot frontages. The park, which is right here, is about 0.9 hectares, and that'll combine to form part of a almost 3-hectare park when the adjacent Hewitt's Gate subdivision, that's the final phase that's going to be registered in the next couple of years. So there'll be a 3-hectare park there. This land is adjacent to a public elementary school, and there's a proposed stormwater management pond located right here. This plan is what's known as a pedestrian circulation plan, shows proposed trail locations, roads with proposed dual sidewalks, single sidewalks, pathway connections, stormwater management trails and maintenance roads. And that's what you see in yellow here is the maintenance road around the pond, which can serve for pedestrian access and recreation, linking into a trail that will connect along the EP corridor. There's connecting linkages into the park, and then there's roads that have dual frontages, primarily the 3 collector roads. There's Lally Terrace, I mentioned at the start of this presentation. There's the extension of Prince William Way, and then this road over here to the east is the extension and ultimate connection of Terry Fox. This slide shows the proposed zoning on the lands. All the developable lands under the current zoning, if it's as an amendment, would be proposed to be zoned R5, with the only exception being the park, which would be zoned open space. Under your draft new zoning bylaw, the lands will be proposed to be zoned neighborhood low 2. We may or may not need special provisions, still working through the various elements of the new proposed zoning bylaw. The park in this instance under the new zoning bylaw would be called GS or green space, and the environmental protection would be the same. It's as EP. And this is my last slide, showing some conceptual renderings of the type built form that is proposed. The bottom right slide is townhouses, the rest are single detached dwellings. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. I will now call upon Logan Jeffermans, planner from the Development Services Department, to provide an update on the status of the application.
Thank you, Chair Nixon, and members of the Affordability Committee. Further to Mr. Duhamel's presentation, please be advised that planning staff are currently reviewing the submitted zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan subdivision applications and have recently circulated those to technical staff. In addition to that presentation by the planning consultant, and the memo was provided to the planning committee, I will provide a brief update on the status of the applications and primary planning and land use matters being considered at this time. The applications for the zoning bylaw amendment, draft plan of subdivision at 830, 864, and 912 Lockhart Road seek to allow for the creation of 338 residential units of varying single detached dwelling lot sizes, street townhomes, and future residential part lots, as well as 1 open space block, which forms part of a park, as well as 3 environmental protection blocks, 2 stormwater ponds, and municipal roads. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment seeks to implement the proposed draft plan subdivision, as described by Mr. Duhamel, rezoning the lands from agricultural and environmental protection in the town of Innisfil zoning bylaw, which remains in place at this time, to the neighborhood residential R5, environmental protection EP, and open space zones under the current zoning bylaw. There was no neighborhood meeting held for this property, as this requirement is waived due to the limited number of properties within 240-meter circulation radius. So matters being reviewed by staff, at least at this time, technical staff and external agencies, includes primarily compliance with the provincial planning policy. As Mr. Duhamel led on, that is a little bit in flux as of October 20th. In addition to the city's current official plan, as approved in May, compatibility and integration with surrounding uses, including alignment of streets and trails with adjacent developments, analysis of intensification targets for population and employment in the former secondary plan areas, review of the natural heritage evaluation and recommendations of the same, including environmental impacts and the long-term protection of environmental features through the conveyance to the city through the subdivision process, impacts on traffic, including the interface with Mapleview Drive East through the Hewitt's Gate Plan of Subdivision and Lockhart Road through the separate and future Hewitt South Plan of Subdivision, as well as confirmation that the proposed development can be supported by existing services and infrastructure. All comments received through this technical review process, as well as comments provided at this public meeting, will be included and addressed in a staff report that is targeted to be brought forward in the fourth quarter of 2024, probably November, December, for general committee's consideration of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Should council approve the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, planning staff through delegated approval would be in position to consider approval of the draft plan subdivision. All submission materials and key dates provided with this subject applications are available online under Ward 10 of the development project webpage, and alternatively, you can always contact myself as the planning file manager. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before we move to, I believe we have one guest registered virtually, but before we do so, are there any members of the public here that wish to speak regarding our third proposal? Going once, twice, no, thank you. Okay, I will now invite Kathy Kolbach to provide comments. Do we have her? Please begin by stating your first, last name and address for the record.
Oh, I have them in.
Hello, Ms. Kolbach?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I really just have a comment, and maybe Logan could reach out to me after the meeting about we're building in general in the official plan and how we're building out. We're looking at, hopefully we're looking at creating complete communities. And so when I look at this development, which is 338 single detached dwellings and semi-detached dwellings, it doesn't look like a complete community to me in terms of there are no sort of triplexes, fourplexes, a four-story rental apartment building, etc. And also, do we have affordable? Is there affordable housing as a part of this build as well? So that's really just my comment. And I've made this comment before when we've talked about subdivisions, how, you know, in the urban center, downtown core and our neighborhoods, we're building second suites and third suites, and we're putting in accessory dwelling units to meet our commitments. Then we're not doing that here in this subdivision. And I don't know if that's just something I don't understand with, you know, in relation to plan of subdivision. Does that somehow exclude apartment buildings or duplexes, triplexes, smaller units being built? So that's my comment. And that's really all I had to say.
Okay, Mr. Duhamel, did you had something else you wanted to add? Or respond?
Provide any response to that, or is that, would you like to just wait for the staff report on that?
Yeah, we'll wait for the staff report. Yeah, thank you. Again, no, I didn't. How about that? It's the painkillers. Ward 10, Councillor Hamilton, do you have any questions or clarification?
Thank you, and through you, Chair Nixon. I'll also wait for the staff report because I do have a couple of questions, but just a few quick things, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Hamill. I thought it was very well done. Generally, I have no concerns with this. I think it's a well thought out plan. I think it fits in very well with the area. I think there's a good use of space here in terms of the trail networks, the park size, the connections to the park, to the school, the mixed density use as well. Just a couple of things though, in terms of the school and the timelines for the school, and this may be for staff or the report, there's so much growth in that area, and I know in some of the newer areas, kids are getting bused now to schools outside of Ward 10 because our schools are filled. What are the timelines then in terms of this development and when a school would actually go in?
Go ahead.
If that's okay,
Sure,
Mr. Chairman,
absolutely.
through to Councillor Hamilton, we've been in contact consistently with the school board on this site. They're eager to get going on this site overall. We're working through the projection of the extension of the sanitary sewer and the projection of development through. So we've just had a registration this summer on the third phase of the Bradley Homes component. I think we're on 5 registrations overall working through that subdivision. So now we're on to the last one, and that'll be registered within the next, I would say, probably 24 months, hopefully a little bit less than that. And then the Hewitt Central subdivision, hopefully if all goes well, it will be approved by you through a zoning bylaw amendment and then through draft plan approval within, sometime in maybe the first quarter of next year, so that we can continue to roll through that area. And then the Hewitt South applications, we're diligently working on that at the same time because they're connected. Because this site, as you know, there's a centralized storm pond, and there's 3 connecting collector roads, which kind of provides it's almost the linchpin for this whole area to start seeing it develop, and then it's connecting with the lands to the east, it's connecting to the lands to the south. So it's essential that this one go. But we're in constant conversations with them, and I know that they're eager to get started.
Okay, it's good to know. And then in terms, I know there's no frontage for this part of the development on Lockhart, but again, just given the growth in the area and Mapleview becoming extremely busy, in the future, is the intent to connect it to Lockhart so that there's sort of 2 key arterial roads that would connect into this development?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Committee Member Hamilton, yes, the intent is to extend Prince William Way down to Lockhart. The intent is also to have Terry Fox ultimately connect through both Hewitt Central and Hewitt South over through to Mapleview Drive, and then Lally Terrace will extend east-west and connect actually both of those 2 collector roads. So between Hewitt Central and Hewitt South, you'll see the delivery of those 3 key collector roads. There still needs some connection to the east as it connects up to Mapleview Drive, but from a more, basically in line with the high school, if you can picture that, in that area, all the way down to Lockhart, that road path and network will be completed ultimately through the development of Hewitt Central and South, because that's all the Pratt lands from Lockhart all the way up to Mapleview Drive.
Okay, that's good to know. And then in terms of the Mapleview Drive reconstruction, that I'm assuming the timelines for that will be completed in advance, well in advance, I imagine, of this particular development. Can staff just confirm the timelines?
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Hamilton. I think the construction will be complete before the development. Obviously, it would depend on the timing for the development, but I think it's in the plan for the next 3 to 5 years for the road to be complete.
Okay, because I think that is just going to be an important nuance there, considering the growth and some of the challenges we're having right now with Mapleview. So I think those timelines are really going to be important. And then just perhaps for Mr. Duhamel, the only question or concern I would have in this plan is the Prince William Way and the frontage of the houses on Prince William Way, given again what we're seeing already on Prince William, houses that front directly onto that, the traffic, the noise, safety. It's just always, Hearst Drive, we get the same sort of headaches, right? When you have houses directly facing onto kind of a main arterial road. Was there any thought or consideration given to that in the overall design of this development, and where we're actually putting houses and trying to avoid the frontage directly onto Prince William Way?
Well, it's never been a design priority for the city to not permit houses to front onto collector roads. It's absolutely a necessary, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Hamilton. But there's never been a design objective to not have any frontages connecting directly to collector roads, but absolutely to arterial roads. So this plan avoids the arterial roads entirely, as is normally the case. And then the city has implemented no on-street parking on collector roads, and as part of the traffic calming plans are developed as part of the subdivision approval process. So there's a variety of methods to control overall, but there's actually been it would be a completely different design approach to have to not use collector roads at all, because you can imagine a site like this, it's bounded in 3 ways by collector roads. So you're trying to turn everything internally. That would impact density, and it would impact the ability to design the site. But I think between traffic calming, no parking on the streets. Those are the principal objectives that have been used so far when dealing with collector roads.
Yeah, and maybe it's overall challenge that we deal with as counselors that we hear from our residents who live in front on these collector roads it's an ongoing concern. But I take your point that it's never been city direction to not develop in that means, and I make sense from a density perspective and a planning perspective, but from a resident perspective, it lends itself to significant challenges. So just something I wanted to raise awareness to, because I know my constituents are going to complain and bring this forward as a concern. And then just my final question, comment is just in terms of transit as well, more so for staff, given again the growth in this area and the lack of transit established. And I know phase 2 of the transit plan does have an expansion of transit services into Salem and Hewitt's Creek, but it doesn't actually include anywhere in this area as well. So bringing that back to staff, if we can have comment of that on the future reports, to let me know how the future transit expansion and the timelines for that into this area, because right now, again, I have constant headaches from people who live in these new neighborhoods who have no access to Barrie Transit. And from a planning perspective, it would be nice to proactively prepare for that rather than being reactive, which is the case right now. And then just my last question. I think this development's great. I'm very supportive. We need more housing. We hear that. And on the flip side, in my ward, I still hear from people that say, gosh, we're getting rid of all the green space and all the agricultural. So just generally, if staff can provide some comment in terms of what is the lens we use to balance growth with preserving some of the agricultural EP type lands for those who are watching and perhaps ask me that question and I don't know how to answer it in a comprehensive way.
Through you, Chair Nixon, to Councillor Hamilton. So ultimately, environmental protection is one type of land use. And so through development applications, what's great about that is that those features are defined through actual ground truthing. Professional experts are out on the field, in the field. Those areas are being surveyed. And in 99.9% of those cases, that land becomes actually acquired by the city through the development approvals process, through the plan of subdivision. So that is a great way. And then through zonings, they're zoned through environmental protection, and then they're transferred to the city. So environmental protection and we get a lot of the city get a lot of land that way to be preserved forever, which is amazing. So that's great. It gets it into city ownership. The agricultural piece is slightly more complicated. When this land, the secondary plan area, was annexed and brought into the city boundary, the idea of that agricultural use continuing really was changed. So you'll see some of those agricultural uses continuing now until they become developed. But keeping in mind that with the exception of the City of Barrie, a lot of the county of Simcoe still has rural land and agricultural land. And so the value that the City of Barrie really provides is that ability to be urban, so that some of the agricultural areas around us can continue to prosper. Hope that helps.
Thank you. That does help. That's actually a great explanation and I think important for residents to hear. So I really appreciate you taking the time to give that background and context overall. But otherwise, thanks to you both. Very, very good. And I apologize, I was not going through each question. So back to you, Chair Nixon.
Okay, thank you. If anyone has any further written comments, you can submit them to Logan Jeffermans in the Development Services Department at logan.jeffermans@barrie.ca. As we have no open delegations, presentations, standing items, referred items, reports of advisory committees, reports of officers, or items for discussion, this will conclude Affordability Committee